Sir, Madurai is a crucial place politically and culturally too. What are your plans? How do you want to make it develop? Like, especially in infrastructure and employment.
No, we have already done a lot of things. We have finally concluded the drinking water scheme, where we're now a surplus city, which was a long-term goal. From a road perspective, I think we have done a lot of infrastructure, built a lot of bridges, the river roads have been expanded. And from a electricity and street light perspective also, we've improved quite a bit. That is kind of consumer level. From jobs and technology level, we have almost completed a new tidal park. In my ELCOT, in my department of ELCOT, we have got about 10 new companies and about 4,000 new jobs lined up in the ELCOT SEZs. For the first time in our state, we have denotified a piece of land in one of our SEZs and created a women's hostel there. It's in construction, so that it makes it easier for rural women to come and stay here Monday to Friday, work and then go home for the weekend. We have brought many new investments here. There was an investment conclave, about 30,000 crores worth of investments were pronounced. We have multiple long-term projects to remove the congestion in the city. We are moving the jail out, for example, and getting back 20-odd acres, making it into a kind of park, like Central Park in New York. Also, all the trades, the small trades, we've already moved the vegetable and onion trade out. Now the food grains and other trade associations will create new centers on the ring road, and so we'll make it more like a temple and tourism center and remove all these. So from an industrial development project, we also have a SIDCO announced, a small industries development. There's already one industrial estate right near the main bus stand. So from MSMEs to large industries to IT, job creation, as well as citizens' life improvement. And the big schemes remaining, which I've been talking about, is that we finally got detailed project reports to completely overhaul the entire city's underground drainage and stormwater management system, which was last done in 1908 by the British. And so it required a profound overhaul. And we have just got those detailed project reports. The CM has announced the first phase of that for 400 and something crores will be done in the heart of the city, which is my constituency. And so we expect as soon as the election is over, that tender will be released. So these are our plans broadly.
So talking about the Madurai Metro, recent remark from Devendra Fadnavis. How do you see that, and do you think that it has BJP's plan to expand their narrative? CM also said that Devendra Fadnavis must be ashamed for this statement.
Yeah, listen, I don't know how deep you want to go into detail on this, but I want to say a few things. I'll qualify everything by saying that Thiru Fadnavis at some level is a personal acquaintance and a friend of mine. We served on the GST Council together and on some group of ministers. So I've always found him to be a reasonable human being when talking personally. But in this instance, it's completely, in fact, it's beyond outrageous. It's illogical, because if you look at what he has said yesterday, and I took the quote just to make sure that I wouldn't miss it. His quotations, he has said three different things at three different places. At the filing, his exact statement was that once Rama Srinivasan ji is elected as MLA, we will take him to the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, and Modi ji will once Sri Rama Srinivasan ji reaches Modi ji, the metro will reach Madurai. That is just illogical, right? Like one MLA in one of 10 constituencies in Madurai city, and of the metro design, a very tiny part goes through Thiruparangunduram. For that to be the basis of allocation, that to one MLA, most likely an opposition MLA, to be the basis of allocation of a major project like metro is illogical. Next, he says something slightly more logical. It's still outrageous, but he says it now logical. He says in Rally 2, he says, I am sure that once our government comes here, under the leadership of Rama Srinivasan ji, we can go to the Prime Minister and request him to bring metro to Madurai. Right? Now, what does that mean? He says, only if you elect a BJP coalition government, then we will bring the metro. At least that is accurate but outrageous. The first one was just inane. Like, what does one opposition MLA mean to anything? Why is it outrageous? As I've said from the beginning, there has been no government in the history of India that has weaponized the people's money, tax money, for political purposes like this government. How brazen do you have to be to say that unless you elect, it's not a question of qualification, it's not a question of prioritization, it's not a question of anything else. Only if you elect a BJP or BJP coalition government, we will give you clearance. And if not, we will not give you. That is as outrageous and brazen a statement of politicization of government and government money, which is the people's money, that I've seen. So both of these are completely beyond the pale. One is illogical and outrageous. One is logical and still exceedingly outrageous. Now, I want to go one step further and say that, of course, at different points he said many different things. You know, he said all kinds of random things. Anyway, we'll leave all that. Politics is politics. He came here for that. But I want to say one thing which is the most important thing, which is most people have no idea how much this government has used metros to politically attack governments. So let us forget about the Chennai Metro, let us forget about the Madurai Metro. I'm planning to have a press conference, in fact, because it's such an important topic. And since I was finance minister, I have some special insight. But let's just take the Chennai Metro Phase 2. The Chennai Metro Phase 2 was announced when the ADMK government was in office in 2016. In 2019, after the BJP tied up and ahead of the 2019 election, the Honorable Home Minister through Amit Shah ji himself came to Chennai and laid a groundbreaking stone for Chennai Metro Phase 2. Announced by ADMK government, BJP NDA government minister from Delhi comes and lays the foundation stone. Nothing happens. We come to office. There is no money. What does a government of India approved metro means? It means the equity and the subordinate debt. That is, the principal financing will be borne equally by the state and the union, and then the rest will come from ADB, JICA, World Bank, whoever. So, by his coming and doing that, the implication is that the center is vested in this project. But in fact, till October or September of 2021, not even the Promotion Investment Board of the Government of India had approved this as a project for getting external funding. Politics, 2019. First approval, 2021. Then I, as finance minister, go to Delhi and I say, listen, we want to get going fast. You have now finally approved. Now you have to give us the money as well, because your equity share. And they say, yes, yes. See, this is in principle approval. For that to happen, the cabinet has to approve the actual disbursal of cash. But it was already in the budget, the 2021-22 budget, it was already there that they would be a partner. But they didn't give it. So I had no choice. I went and I said, I have the money and I want to not slow the work. Please allow me to start working on it now as if it was only a state project. And then as soon as you approve it, we'll reconvert it to a centrally sponsored project and you'll give your half of the money then and we'll proceed. They said, yes, yes, go ahead. Except when did they finally approve it? In November of 2024, right? Almost 4 years or 3.5 years after we came to government. 5 years after laying the groundbreaking stone in 2019, they finally approved it as a central project, and I am not in finance, so I don't know. I'm assuming the funds that were due came after that. This is how outrageously the government of India weaponizes money and projects like Metro for political reasons.
Sir, the opposition has questioned the feasibility of 8,000 coupon scheme, citing that Tamil Nadu is already in debt then. So I want to understand that how you are going to implement your plans, what are you going to plan?
Yeah, so again, I'm not the finance minister, so it's hard for me to say exactly what is happening in the files. But I can tell you that I was the finance minister in 2021. And when we came, the debt of the state was at unseen levels, at 28% of GSDP. The interest ratios were at unseen levels up till then. And we had already made many commitments, like 4,000 rupees per family in the ration card, like free buses, and we had unexpected commitments like COVID phase 2, management, phase 3 management. So I have gone on record in the assembly saying that Not only did we honor all these commitments like the jewel loan waiver, the self-help group loan waiver, the 4,000 rupees per card, which is like 8,500, 8,600 crores, plus the free buses, which cost us about 900 crores a year. All of that, my estimation, when I read my third budget speech, I said we have spent about 1 lakh crores on new projects and new schemes in the last 2 years. And yet, when I read the speech, we had improved the revenue deficit from 62,000 crores to 30,000 crores. And we borrowed almost the same money in 2023, including refilling or redepositing some money into the employees' contributory pension scheme, which had been borrowed by the previous government, which I showed in my white paper. So, from my perspective, in rupee terms, we brought the revenue deficit down to below the 2019 pre-COVID level of ADMK government. And in borrowing terms, we borrowed 10,000, 20,000 crores less in rupee terms than the ADMK government's last borrowing, which was already kind of hidden by the fact that they had taken money out of the public account, which I pointed out in my white paper. So I think if you have the capacity, you can fulfill the promises. Anybody can talk. But we have shown it in those 2 years. If you go and look at the data, we have shown that we can do new schemes and manage the fisc. So maybe you should believe that we can do it again.
So with Vijay entering active politics, do you believe he will significantly change the scenario, or this year also it's going to be ADMK versus DMK?
Yeah, look, I think, every opinion is equally correct or wrong. We're all guessing. Of course, we use surveys, we use other things. I would say more philosophically that I always welcome new entrants into public life. And in the case of Thiru Vijay, he is an immensely popular actor at the peak of his career, as he says, and therefore his coming into politics brings attention, brings engagement, brings in particularly the youth into the debate, into the fray, into the field. That is always a good thing. What percentage that impact will be, how it will be, the election will tell us. The only point that I would make is that as there are in the markets two variables or factors, one is what we call fundamentals and one we call technicals. So in elections, the equivalent of fundamentals can be whether you have an appeal, whether you have a good manifesto, whether you have a good followership. And technicals is whether you can actually manage the election process, have booth agents, fill out all the forms properly, go through the motions. New parties always struggle a bit to get the technicals right. In fact, I came as a first-time candidate, I struggled a bit to get the technicals right. Now I would say I'm way better than average because I've applied my 30-year expat experience and global management experience to build better and better systems and data and automation. But it takes time. So if I just use myself as an example, in my third election, after 2 personal elections and 2 general elections as the IT wing secretary of the DMK, I would say I personally have outstanding technical capability relative to the field, and the DMK has superior technical capability. Relatively speaking, new parties will have a bit of problem with that. That's just nature, but they'll get better and better at it. It's only a question of experience. Yeah.
So CM and Deputy CM both talk about 3-language policy. They always say that we will not allow the imposition of Hindi in Tamil Nadu. So how do you see that?
No, listen, I'm sorry, I have this limitation. I don't like saying the same thing twice, let alone 20 times. I have multiple interviews at national level with Karan Thapar, with others. I've already opined that it is simply not in the realm of possibility that we will implement compulsory 3-language ever. Not only is it core to our identity, but our results having a 2-language formula have been, or policy have been so spectacularly good relative to any other benchmark that it would be irresponsible, it would be ludicrous for us to even consider the adoption of a 3-language policy.
So just one last question. CM always says that it is NDA versus Tamil Nadu. So how do you see that?
Look, you just got an example of where a sitting chief minister of a NDA, in this case BJP government in a different state, is threatening us, saying that unless you elect a BJP MLA or NDA government, you will not get the metro. I mean, what more evidence do you want? that this is a political fight between control from some kind of Delhi empire as opposed to autonomy and self-rule from Tamil Nadu.
வாக்கு கேட்டு உரை நிகழ்த்தணும். மைக்க கொண்டு வாங்க.